Alright, hello, welcome, my name is Bjorn, thank you for joining me today. I hope everyone's staying safe in this time, social distancing and all that jazz. But yeah, we're going to continue on looking at the new Psionic reworks to previously added classes. Today we're going to be going over the Soulknife. There's some much needed changes in this that I appreciate, revolving around their later feature and also an early feature. And yeah. So we're just going to jump into it. We're kind of going in reverse order here. I started off with the Aberrant Mind. We already did that video. I really like the Aberrant Mind. I think it's fantastic. The rework that is. I can't really remember what the first one looked like, but anyways, that's not this video. Soulknife. So as we see here, it goes back into the same lore. Finding a place to fit this in your world. I think I've went over in the past with I like how, I have Soulknives in my world set to be like akin to the Jedi Order, with, people are noticing the midichlorians in the children, and they're taken away, brainwashed, blah 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 blah. Good stuff. But anyways, the mechanical side of things. So we do gain, akin to the Aberrant Mind and the Psi-Knight, we now also gain the Psionic talent. This is going to be across the board, so far it looks like, with all the subclasses, which I really like. It adds sort of a unity, a collective, like there's a connection here between each of these individuals, however they use their psionic abilities differently. That's awesome, it's fantastic. We do use Psi dice, whatever. We'll go over that first here because it's very important. Essentially, you're going to be starting off with a d6. If you happen to roll a 1 on the d6, you go up the chart in the dice, what your potential outcome is for using the die, whatever. The idea is that essentially you're storing power, and then you're able to release it later as a D8 or a D10 or a D12. If you keep rolling ones, you're going to keep going up the chart. However, if you roll the maximum on that die, so D6, if you roll a 6, you're going to go down to a 4. And then if you roll a 4 on a 4, you're going to break the Psi die. In this case, we use our Psi replenishment feature, and that we're going to use a bonus action and regain our D6 and start fresh. Can only do this once a long rest. I really like that. The one thing I will say now, before we move much further, is that the one thing I do want to see changed here is that there's no way to stockpile this. And by that, I mean once you get up to a D12, like say with either the base class, like you've come up to 17th level and you start off with the D12, there's no way to go beyond that D12. So if you roll a 1 on a D12, you're just... It's a fuck you. It's not the greatest feeling. I think it would be. I think it would be nice to maybe stockpile this to, say, a number equal to your intelligence modifier. Something, anything. Because that way, at least if you do manage to get up to a D12, or you're starting with a D12 and you roll a 1, you're able to feel a bit more like you have potential to expand these dice and not to worry so much about breaking. And then you can... go from there. I would like to see a way to stockpile this. I would homebrew that, just so that, why not? It'd be a nice little feature, I think. But anyways, that's the Psi dice. That's across the board with everything. So now for our Psionic talents, we do gain 2 with this, unlike the Aberrant Mind rework. The Aberrant, it feels appropriate that we only gain 2, because I feel like a sorcerer should be more focused on in enhancing themselves through, the psionic tables with like the magic side, and the rogue shouldn't be as much, kind of. It feels appropriate. Plus we gain, I think this is perfect here, we gain the Psi bolstered knack, and we also gain Psi whispers. Both are extraordinarily useful. The whispers, quick and simple. It's communicating telepathically with your group. You can roll your Psi die, and whatever you get on that, you can pick up to that number of people, and for an hour and within a mile, you can communicate telepathically. This is great because rogues are about gathering information and sharing that information. There's a trap there, I need to disarm it, this person has been doing this. There's a lot of potential here for helping out your group, not just within... it's mostly, like, I can see combat uses here, but it is mostly outside of combat. There could be political interest, maybe there's a dinner party going on, and you're trying to dig up dirt on somebody else that's there, and the rogue figures it out, and they're able to communicate that to them, and then bring it up and they're baffled that it happened. So there's a lot of potential there. Anyways, the Psi bolstered knack is also fantastic. So when we use our psionic, when our non-psionic training fails us, we can tap into our psionic power to help. If you fail an ability check using a skill or tool with which you have proficiency, you can roll your psionic talent die and add the number rolled to the check, potentially turning failure into success. So that is impressive. Not just with being able to generally pass, but I feel like there's other classes out there where it specifies that you have to use this not this particular ability, but like say a set ability. You have to invest into this ability before you know the outcome. This is saying, as written, as to me, that you can know the outcome and then roll this to see if you beat that outcome. It's kind of very powerful. It's kind of like seeing into the future a little bit, and I kind of like that, but I also think it's very, very dangerous that it's not necessarily game breaking, it's just gonna be interesting, I think. I like it. There's a lot of potential there. And also, even at later levels when we do gain reliable talent with this, just the base rogue, it's still very useful. Reliable talent only brings it up to a 10. A lot of, expertise is going to be maybe 12 to 15 at late levels. And maybe a 22 to 25 isn't enough. And then you roll this, you add the D12 or whatever it will be at the time, and you get up to that extraordinarily high pass, and you unlock the thing or whatever. It's still extraordinarily useful at later levels. This is fantastic. Anyways, I love those two. The additions there, they seem extraordinarily fitting to the rogue. I see people using obviously the knack a lot more often than the whispers, but they both have their place. So, with that in mind, we're going to move forward. We also, at 3rd level, gain the Psychic Blades feature. Pardon me. This is a carryover, obviously, from the first version of this class. However, there's some vital changes here. I believe that the original Psychic Blades required a bonus action to summon them, which I didn't like that because essentially, we have our cunning action, which is either we can dash, sneak, whatever. That took away that, essentially. You would be forced to either summon your blades, in which case, you'd want to summon them, of course, so there goes that bonus action. But then all of a sudden you can't hide that turn if you weren't already hidden, so that means you're going to probably not get sneak attack off necessarily, but or not be able to attack again. But with this, it's essentially a free action. You're able to summon them. They do 1d6 damage. They have a base range now of 60 feet. I believe that is also a change as well. I really like that. It's just a normal range, and then after 60 feet, it is, in my mind, it just dissipates and fades away. Immediately vanishes. After you attack with the blade, you can make a melee or ranged weapon attack with a second. Psychic Blade is a bonus action on the same turn, provided your other hand is free. This damage bonus is a d4 instead of a d6. So that's fine. I really like this. It means that it frees up our ability to go ahead and dash around to sneak, and it's just a free action. We don't need to worry. It means that we're going to be able to feel like we can maybe start throwing these a lot more often, which I like that visual a lot. So that's a good change. It feels balanced for, being a psionic. It feels really good. I really love this change. It's fan-friggin-tastic. Anyways, so Soul Blades. At 9th level, our Psionic Blades are now an expression of your Psi-suffused soul, giving you finer control over them in the following ways. Homing strikes. If you make an attack roll with your Psionic Blades and miss the target, you can roll your Psionic talent die and add the number rolled to the attack roll. If this causes the attack to hit, your Psionic die decreases by one size regardless of the number rolled. So, this is pretty nice. Again, it's just adding to that skill of the rogue, and however, it is a guaranteed to go down. So, keep that in mind that if you start combat off without previously going into, like, say maybe there weren't any skill checks, you're going in with D6 early on, or what is it here at 9th? So you'd have a D8 at least. So you'd have maybe up to at least 3 uses of this if you're going into combat without it. So that's still pretty good and can save a lot. You know, that saves on your action economy. So it's pretty good. Psionic Teleport. If your Psionic talent die is available, you can hurl your Psychic Blade to magically teleport yourself to another location. As a bonus action, you can manifest one of your Psychic Blades and throw it to an unoccupied space you can see, up to a number of feet equal to 5 times the highest number of your Psionic talent die. You then teleport to that space, the blade vanishes, and your Psionic talent die decreases by 1 size. So, this is interesting. It kind of shows an increase of power. Like, with you storing it up, you're able to throw this dagger further. So obviously at a D12, it's going to be 60 feet. So that's a far fucking teleport that you're able to do, especially if, you know, if you make the homebrew rule change that you can stockpile them up. I think that'd be pretty cool. You know, 10, 50, etc., etc. But yeah, there's an incrementing scale here, and I really like that. Yeah, it's cool. It allows a lot of potential for moving around the battlefield. So the Psionic Veil, 13th level Soulknife feature. So the Psionic Veil. You can weave a veil of psionic static to mask yourself. As an action, you can magically become invisible along with anything you are wearing or carrying for 10 minutes or until you dismiss this effect. No action required. This invisibility ends if you deal damage to a creature or force them to make a saving throw. Once you use this feature, you can't do so again until you finish a long rest, unless you decrease your psionic talent die by 1 size to use this feature again. So, another awesome use of the psionic abilities and the psionic tables. Just being able to go invisible for 10 minutes. That's pretty great. This is also, it was in there as well, I believe. However, it was limited to your intelligence modifier. But in this case, it's just limited to however many dies that you have, psionic die. And so by that, it could be infinite. You could roll at ones on all of your additional skills, your skill rolls, and then you could just have up to however many you need and then expend what you got on this. You can be invisible for a long time. So pretty great. Now finally, oh thank god they changed this. Rend Mind. You can sweep your psychic blades directly through a creature's mind. When you use your psychic blades to deal sneak attack damage to a creature, you can force that target to make a wisdom saving throw. DC is equal to 8 plus proficiency plus dexterity. Unless the save succeeds, the target is stunned until the end of your next turn. Once you use this feature, you can't do so again until you finish a long rest, unless you decrease your psionic talent die by 1 size with this feature. Don't mind that. I do like that it's changed, because before, how this worked is essentially it was separate from your sneak attack, which was absurd. I believe I calculated it at like 30d6 or something like that. Like with a multi-class dip level 2, like you were able to do multiple Rend Mines in a turn. You can do multiple Rend Mines in a turn, and and sneak attack. It was absurd. And Rend Mine at the time also had its own damage. It was like 10d6 or whatever. So it was like the equivalent to a sneak attack on top of having additional sneak. It was ridiculous. It was broken. There's no way a dungeon master would be able to balance that shit. It didn't make sense. This I like a lot more. I feel like though it could be a bit more powerful now. I do like that it is it's focusing more on our dexterity, so we don't need to have a high intelligence either with this character anymore, which is nice. But I feel like maybe an additional 3d6, you know, something to bump up the damage just a little bit more. You know, it doesn't need to be that 10d6, but now that it is tied in with the tied in around the sneak attack, I feel like we can bump it up just a little bit more on top of stunning, and I think that's awesome. That is fantastic. It's a great change regardless. And, you know, you could just homebrew it so that it does an additional 2d6 on top of whatever your sneak attack damage is, which is 17th level. I think it's 9d6. It could be 10d6 already, but I'm pretty sure it's 96. So, hey, that's pretty good. So yeah, overall, fantastic changes. This makes this class a lot more balanced. It makes it a lot more manageable for Dungeon Masters. And not only that, if you would have thrown this as a NPC villain at you know, your characters with having, you know, the Rend mine feature, you would have just nuked somebody down. Yeah, this is a fantastic addition, and I really like that there's this accompanying, again, the Psionic talents. Yeah, I like this connection that they all have. Maybe there could be some sort of you know, within your own world, I could see there being, you know, the aberrant mind, the soul, the psionic soul, whatever it's called now, that they could like share some information. Maybe they can learn from each other. One could teach them one ability, the other can teach them that. I think that'd be a cool little potential addition here to have among the classes, but also it'd have to be pretty rare. But yeah, so this has been fantastic. I hope people like this. I hope you liked the video. I hope that this helped you. I hope this inspired you. Yeah, and I hope you're staying safe and have a wonderful, wonderful time in isolation and lockdown. God, it's been crazy. Have a good one. Bye-bye.